Hey, are you looking for another extension idea to use in your Cambly Kids Classroom? Stay tuned. I'm going to share one of those with you. But first, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. My name is Celeste, and I'm a wife and an entrepreneur. Thus, I call myself a wifepreneur. I love to talk about my journey as an entrepreneur and also how we save money as we've begun this new life as an entrepreneur, and also just my hobbies of sewing and cooking, those kinds of things. So if that's something that interests you, please subscribe, click that notification bell, and like this video. I would greatly appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about another extension idea. In an earlier video, I shared 3 extensions that I have used in my Cambly Kids Classroom and why sometimes we need those extensions in a classroom. So I will link that video above in case you want to go back and look at that if you haven't already viewed it. Today, as I'm sitting here, I had a student no-show, so I wanted to pop on here and share something that I've been using for the past 6 weeks in Cambly Kids, and it's been very, very effective to really help with vocabulary understanding, making sure that my students not only know how to read the word and read it in a sentence, but testing them or seeing how much of comprehension they have with that word is what I'm trying to say. So this is a way that I have tested their ability to understand a new vocabulary word that we have just learned. So we're going to hop on to the Cambly Kids platform. I'm going to show you a recent class that I've done, actually 2 classes. I'm not going to show you the actual video of the class because I want to protect the identities of children, but I will show you the slide that I've used for my upper level kids and how I've used this technique, and then we'll come back and I'll show you in person how this is done. So let's hop on to the Cambly Kids platform.
So let's take a look on the Cambly website. Here you'll find a list of 6 vocabulary words that are listed at the beginning of this lesson as well as the end of the lesson. At the beginning of the lesson, what I do is I encourage the student to read which words they already know. This will help me know what their background information and knowledge is and what we'll need to concentrate more on throughout the lesson. So if they don't know them, that is fine. I let them know that we are going to learn about these in the upcoming lesson, but I want to see what words they already know. So there are 6 typically in this lesson. This is a secondary A lesson here, and so for today we had bookstore, we had cafe, library, and we had post office, those hotel, those kinds of words there. At the end I'm going to show you how I use this for vocabulary knowledge. Now we're going to pop over to a secondary C lesson and we'll see how they are listed differently. As you can see, they are listed with the definitions, and so I will encourage the student to read each word as well as the contextual definitions. These are the definitions that were used in the passage that we read just a few slides prior to this slide. This allows me to make sure they can pronounce the words again as well as understanding the contextual meaning of that word or phrase. And as you can see, most of the lessons that I have had in secondary C only have 5 definitions midway through, and then at the end of the lesson they will have 5 different words or phrases and their definitions.
So this helpful. I am such a visual learner, and so before I explain the game that I use, I thought it might be helpful for you to actually see the slides. At least for me, that's how I learn best. So I hope that was helpful to you. But what I do is I take my die here, and I have already explained other ways that I've used this die and where I purchase it and how I assemble it. So I will link that video above. But what I do is I take this die and I will throw it up like that, and I will reveal the number that it lands on. And then they have to use that vocabulary word in their own sentence. This allows me to check for vocabulary comprehension. Do they really know what that word means, or are they just kind of regurgitating and repeating what I have said or what they have read earlier? Now, the second slide that I showed you for secondary C, One of my students will just take the easy way out and will remember a sentence from the long passage that we read. And I will praise him for that. He is a very reluctant reader and has been very uneasy with feeling, well, he's been not confident, I should say, in using new words. And so I don't want to deter that or to diminish that. And so I'll praise him. It's like, oh, that was a great job. Let's think of a word, of a sentence that you can use on your own. And I'll say, for example, so I will choose a different number like number 6 or number 4, and I will form my own sentence that wasn't in the passage that we already read so he can understand what I'm asking for. And then we'll try it again, and he will do very well with the sentence. And I will type that sentence in the chat box, which I've already alluded to in the other video with the other 3 extensions that I've shared before. So I want them to see visually their sentence. I want them to see that we begin the sentence with the capital letter and that we will end the sentence with a period. So they are familiar with the punctuation as well as with capital letters, etc. Now, some of my students can write their own sentences, and I will encourage them to do that in the chat box. And then I will look for ways that we can tweak our spelling, our punctuation, etc. But with him, that would be something that would really, really cause stress in his life and will discourage him from learning. I've had him for about a year, so I know that about him. So I'm trying to take baby steps with him. But with some of my other students, they are just ready to jump in and do that. So that's a fun vocabulary game that I play, and I've been using it for 6 to 8 weeks now. I've tried it with my secondary A classes as well as my upper level classes, just to really help them use the words that we are talking about. And I want them to use them in real life context. For example, the secondary A class today was about giving directions. And so she was able to use the word park, is what number we landed on, number 6. And she was able to give me directions from her home to the park. And we reviewed left and right, or this is left on your screen and right on your screen, but it was the correct order when I did it with her. So that was a great way to talk about directions and using a word that we already learned in the lesson. So I hope that's helpful for you. If so, please give this a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will also link some other videos here at the end that might be helpful for you if you are wanting to really extend your Cambly Kids lessons. If you're not a Cambly Kids tutor, I would love to help you through that process. I've included my email address if you have any questions, as well as my referral code, and my family would greatly appreciate it if you would use that. If you are hired, Cambly does kind of reward teachers for passing the word and spreading the word about this teaching platform. So until next time, happy teaching.